Hey guys, so today we are going to be learning a new lesson for math, and we are going to be working on 11-9 in your workbook. Okay, so in this section, we're going to learn all about fractions, mixed numbers, and decimals. Okay, actually, before I start, I'm going to let you go ahead and grab your math notebook if you haven't already, because I do need you to follow along just like if we were in class. Okay, so I'm going to solve some problems for you on the board, but I do need you to follow along in your notebook so that you have something to look back to when you are doing your homework and reviewing and things like that. Okay, so go ahead and grab your stuff and I will wait. Okay, so one of the first things that we need to understand before we can even get through this section is that, believe it or not, fractions are actually division problems. Okay, so I will show you what that looks like in a little bit. But any fraction is kind of like if you're solving a division problem. Okay, remember the word quotients. Okay, this fancy word here. Quotients is just a word for your any division answer. So when I talk about what is the quotient of the problem, it's just what is the answer to that problem. Okay, and there's three ways to represent fractions. So it's or a division problem. So it's a fraction or a mixed number, and also in decimal form. So today what our goal is that we are going to figure out how to get a division problem and represent it in these three ways. Okay, so I'm going to shift over and I'm going to start on the first problem. So the first problem I have for you is 8 divided by 5. Okay, so this problem, as you can see, is just a regular whole number, and a division sign in the middle. So it's just a regular division problem. Okay, something that's kind of fancy about division, when you look at the division symbol, if you replace the dots with numbers, in this case, if you replace the dots with an 8 and a 5, you get 8 over 5. Ooh, so fancy. Okay, so this dot would be replaced with the 8, this one with the 5. And so this division symbol just really means 8 over 5. Okay, so that's the first way. Remember, we said that there are three ways to represent fractions. So the first way is, to represent a division problem. First way is a fraction. So because this particular problem is an improper fraction, we can also represent it as a mixed number. So the second one, 8 over 5, can change to a mixed number. And remember, we do that by doing long division. And when we did division problems back in, I think it was like topic 4 or 5, remember we would say in and out. So it doesn't matter what number is bigger or smaller, which one goes in the house, it's always in and out. So the first number in a division problem is always inside the house. Second number is always outside. So remember, in and out, in and out, in and out. And the way that we read these problems is always from left to right. Okay, oops. No. Sorry, my iPad was acting crazy. Okay, so in the problem, it's always 8 divided by 5. Okay, so it's whatever number is here divided by, and then whatever number is here. So in this case, 5 divided by 8. So let's go back to here. We are solving by finding a mixed number. And this is only when we have an improper fraction. So when the number on top is bigger. So if the numbers were opposite, so if it was just 5/8, we wouldn't need to do this step. But in this case, we do because the number on top is bigger and we don't want fractions like that. So we do long division. 5 goes into 8 one time. And remember, let's write our problem as we go so we don't forget. So 1 is our whole number. We subtract 5 and we get 3. That's our numerator. And our denominator always stays the same. So in this case, 5. Okay, so this is the second way we can represent division problems as mixed numbers. The third way is to do decimals, okay? And we've already done decimals. We did dividing decimals in topic 7. So this isn't new. It's kind of a refresher. So watch carefully, okay? We have that same problem, 8 divided by 5. So we set up our long division. We know that it goes into it one time, which is 5, and we get remainder 3. When we have decimals, we don't want remainders. Remainders are no-nos for decimals. So what do? We end the problem by putting a decimal, bring it up to our answer, and we add a 0. That 0 comes down, and 5 goes into 30, 6 times evenly. No more remainders, and our answer is 1.6. Okay? So the first way, again, as a fraction. Second way, as a mixed number. Third way, as a decimal. In your homework, it'll probably ask you write the division problem as a fraction or mixed number. It's just because some of your fractions will just be regular fractions with a smaller number on top. And then some of them you would need to do long division like this one. Okay, so let's try another one. And remember, you can always pause or rewind, watch it over and over again, just so that you can get a clear understanding. All right, so in this case, we have 3 divided by 4. So remember, all division problems are fractions. We're going to replace this as our numerator and this as our denominator. And in this case, we don't need to do a mixed number because it's just a regular fraction. We have a smaller number on top and our our denominator on the bottom. In this case, we also don't need to simplify because there's nothing to simplify both 3 and 4. So now the other step is to find it as a decimal. And decimals is just long division. But now you see that 4 is on the outside, 3 is on the inside. Remember, in and out. And it doesn't matter that the 4 is on the outside and it's bigger because we know that 4 does not go into 3, so we'll add a 0. Then we need to add a decimal in order to continue our problem. And remember that we want a decimal anyways, so we put a decimal and add a 0. Then we say how many times does 4 go into 30? It goes into it 7 times, which is 28. When you subtract, you need to regroup. 10 minus 8 will give you 2. And when we find decimals, we want to have at least 3 places, unless it tells you different, but usually it always says round to the nearest hundredth. So we need to round to the hundredths place. This is tenths, hundredths, and then if another number is there, it's thousands. And we do need to find all the way to the thousand so we can round. So we'll bring down our 0. And 4 goes into 20 5 times evenly, and our answer ends there. So in this case, if there's no more remainders, you can end your problem and your answer would just be 0.75. So your homework will ask you, find or represent this division problem as a fraction. We did that. And also as a decimal. we did that. So you will probably need 2 answers in your homework. Let's go and solve another one. Okay, 6 divided by 10. Again, as a fraction, it would just be 6 over 10. And in this case, you would need to simplify because both numbers can be divided by 2. However, in 11-9, it's not necessary because we want to represent this particular problem as a fraction, okay? So don't worry about simplifying in 11-9. We will simplify in the next sections, but in this case, you can leave it as is. Then we're gonna do it as a decimal. So 10 on the outside, 6 on the inside for long division. 10 does not go into 6, so we need to add a decimal to continue our problem and add a 0. 10 goes into 60 6 times evenly, no remainders, so our decimal answer is 0.6, and we represented it both in a fraction and a decimal problem. Okay, let's do this one now. We have 1 is our numerator, 5 is our denominator. It's simplified, so we can move on. We don't need to change it to a mixed number. And then let's just find it as a decimal. So in and out, and 5 does not go into 1. So we need to add a decimal and add a 0 to continue the problem. 5 goes into 10 twice, evenly. So that's our answer. If I'm going too fast, please make sure that you rewind and you slow down the video, watch it a few times just so that you can get the hang of it. Okay, we also have a problem like this. So in this case, if the numbers get a little bit bigger, it's still the same. In and out, or top and bottom, 28 over 20, okay? Oh, now we have a number that is bigger on top, so this is an improper fraction. That means we need to go another step further and find it as a mixed number. So all impropers have to be mixed numbers. So it's when we have a whole number with a fraction. So that's here. And again, to do that, we just do long division. 20 goes into 28 once, which is 20. Remember that that 1 is going to be our whole number. We subtract and we get 8 over 20. Okay. Let me just double check and make sure that you can leave it in this format for 11-9. Yeah, okay, so again in 11-9, we don't need to simplify. So you can just leave it as is for now, but remember that eventually we will be getting into simplifying. But I just want you to practice writing it as fractions for now. So once we have this down, we need to find our decimal. Again, we have to do long division. So in and out, 20 goes outside, 28 inside. We said that it doesn't go into 2, but it goes into 28 once. We subtract and we get 8. And then this is where we need to continue the problem in order to find our decimal. So we'll end here by adding the decimal and the 0. It needs to come down, and we know 20 goes into 80 4 times evenly with no remainder, so your answer is 1.4. Okay, let's try this last problem before I have you do a problem and work on your homework. Remember, top, bottom. So 18 over 4. We have an improper fraction, so we need to continue and do long division. 4 goes into 18 4 times, which is 16. We subtract and we get 2. So that remainder becomes your numerator, and your denominator stays the same, which was 4 over here. So this would be your answer. Yes, 2 over 4 needs to simplify, but we'll leave it in this format for now. When we're finding our decimal, we need to do long division again. We said 4 goes into 18 4 times, which is 16. We have a remainder, so we need to continue our problem. Add your decimal, bring it up to your quotient, add a 0, and bring it down to your problem. 4 goes into 20, 5 times evenly, no remainders, so that's your final answer. Okay, so in your homework, you're gonna be asked to find it as a fraction mixed number and a decimal. So please make sure you do both, okay? So once you're done with this, there is an exit ticket. So kind of like plickers, how we would do plickers at the end of our lesson. I just wanna check in, so that part is not graded. I just wanna check in and make sure that you're understanding how to do it. And it's in a Google form. So you'll see kind of like a purplish link. Click on it. It's a multiple choice, but make sure that you solve the problem in your notebooks. And all you have to do is just choose the answer that is, what's it called? That is your answer, or the correct answer that you think is which option, okay? From there, your homework is workbook 11-9. So I have pictures of 11-9 as a workbook, but if you want to do it in your regular workbook that you normally do your homework in, you can show your work there, take a picture of it, and then just attach that to your Google Classroom, and I'll check from there. In tomorrow's lesson, the first thing I'll do is I'll show you, or I'll give you answers to your homework so that you have the correct answer. So kind of like we would do every day after I would check your homework in class, we would go over answers, and then you can leave a question if you get one of them wrong and don't understand why, then we'll go over it in the next one, okay? So if you have any questions, please feel free to send me a comment or leave me a message on Google Classroom, email me, all that good stuff, and I will see you later. Bye.